Hi there, this is Janis Commentz, and I want to invite you to my relatively new podcast, Encouragement Only. I have promised to share words of encouragement and inspiration, especially during these interesting times. Last month, I had the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C., a place that I've wanted to visit for a long time, and when all of the elements fell into place, I had a great visit. In this podcast, I will talk about visiting Washington, D.C. as a first-timer, an artist's view, and friendships that affected this visit. Mark Twain wrote, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime." If you are fortunate enough to travel, it's really fun. And if you're not, I urge you to look up the places mentioned in this podcast and be sure to follow along with my Substack newsletter, which has pictures and photographs of my trip. And this is an auditory version. Thanks. An artist's view. As an artist's daughter, I experienced vacations that included art museums, galleries, and plein air sketching and painting. I was fortunate. My artist mother surrounded me not only with supplies and instruction, but a wide collection of books and posters. Looking back, I believe her visit to the Capitol during the 1940s had left quite an impression. Her watercolor paintings of George Washington's Mount Vernon and Andrew Jackson's Hermitage hung over my parents' bed. On the walls of the National Gallery, I kept seeing old friends, paintings I had seen, and reproductions in my mother's collection. Notable were James McNeill Whistler's Symphony in White No. 1, The White Girl. Rejected in 1862, little was known about the model until the painting was featured in a 1994 exhibit at the Royal Academy of Arts in London. According to the Arts newspaper, James McNeill Whistler and his partner, the model Joanna Heffernan, were not surprised when his painting of her was rejected from the Royal Academy of Arts' 1862 summer exhibition. Heffernan wrote, "Some stupid painters don't understand it at all. Jim says the old duffers may refuse it altogether." Another painting I remember seeing in my mother's books was David with the Head of Goliath by Andrea del Castagno, created around 1450 to 57. Although its shape is unique, until I stood in front of the large work, I did not realize it is painted on a shield of leather and wood. I could reflect on 100 more paintings which I saw in April up close for the first time. Notable also were the portraits of the U.S. presidents in the National Portrait Gallery. I had not seen Chuck Close's portrait of Bill Clinton. Close was well known for his large photorealism portraits in the 1960s and 70s. In 1988, at the age of 49, Close, at the height of his career as a portrait painter, was stricken with a spinal blood clot that left him a quadriplegic. While I was teaching, I first read about Close's condition in a Scholastic Art magazine. Close is most famous for his large scale portraits that are divided into grids and painted. After his illness, he had to adapt to a special lifting wheelchair and easel. He also suffered from prosopagnosia, a face blindness where he can't recognize faces. His later portraits, such as that of Bill Clinton, consisting of small blocks of design, are astonishing. I also enjoyed seeing the Elaine de Kooning painting of John F. Kennedy. It was notable for a woman to be selected as the artist in 1962, and she spent several sessions with him. She said it was not a portrait of JFK, but a glimpse. Less than 2 years after John F. Kennedy's assassination abruptly stole him from the nation, she said, "President Kennedy was never still. He slipped by us. Kennedy was constantly surrounded by activity." After the assassination, the grief-stricken artist painted the president's image obsessively, finally saying she caught only a glimpse of him. My personal favorite painting of President Kennedy is the official portrait by Aaron Schickler. All of these works and more can be seen on my Substack newsletter. And of course, what a thrill to see Kehinde Wiley's portrait of Barack Obama. I had seen a fabulous Wiley exhibit in Paris, but not the Obama portrait. I am devoted to the French Impressionists and was delighted to see many of their works at the National Gallery. Travel sketching is always a part of my plan, and I had 2 short opportunities while in Washington, D.C. Friendship. Travel brings wonderful new experiences, but our contacts with people are priceless. After visiting the Savannah home of Juliette Gordon Low, the founder of the Girl Scouts, I was reminded of the Scout song. "Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, the other is gold." Last fall in Paris, I had the good fortune to meet a new friend who docents at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and I began to consider visiting Washington, D.C. As I left for my trip, I also contacted a childhood friend who lives near the city. Both welcomed me personally and showed me sights I would not have seen on my own. My new docent friend took me to see iconic memorials: the U.S. Marine Corps War Memorial of soldiers raising the flag at Iwo Jima, the Lincoln Memorial, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall, and then we spent an entire inspiring day on Cathedral Hill near Georgetown University. Perhaps the most memorable of those was the Vietnam Memorial Wall, built into the ground in a most remarkable manner, and it has black walls with white print, which at first were scorned a little bit when they were designed, but today it is, of course, one of the most visited monuments. The volunteer standing nearby was eager to talk about the whole memorial event, and one notable thing is that the names are not alphabetical. They appear on the wall in clusters of dates and campaigns, and he said so often soldiers will come, or family members, but the soldiers who were there, and they see their relative's name, and then they'll see someone else they might know, and someone else they might know nearby, and it's quite well designed and memorable. It's also amazing to see a Gothic cathedral in the U.S. reminiscent of European structures. The National Cathedral, according to its website, is the world's 6th largest cathedral. We toured the cathedral, visited its garden, ate lunch in the cathedral cafe, and learned that the Washington National Cathedral receives no funding from the government. It is actually named the Cathedral Church of St. Peter and St. Paul. According to the original plans for Washington, D.C. by designer Pierre L'Enfant, land was set aside for a great church for national purposes. The land was selected in 1896 and the foundational stone was laid in 1906. A building campaign lasted 83 years, and it was just reaching completion in 1990 when an earthquake toppled the spires and gargoyles, and the repairs are still ongoing. 40 of the stained glass windows were created by artists Rowan Lecomte, whose vision began in the 1930s when he first visited the cathedral. They are strikingly modern. In the afternoon, Lecomte's great rose window creates a warm pink glow throughout the cathedral. That evening, we attended a live interview at the cathedral, Principles in Politics, an evening with Liz Cheney and John Meacham. One must admire her loyalty to her convictions. The event was at capacity, and we had premier seating among the 2,000 in about row 50. I had an opportunity to experience the real Washington, to cheer and to hear. My friend also offered a bounty of knowledge on a tour of the National Gallery of Art. My fourth grade friend invited me to dinner and selected Vue, V-U-E, rooftop restaurant at the top of Hotel Washington. We had an incredible view of the sun setting over the White House, practically next door. Only the Treasury building is in between. We caught up for 3.5 hours. Friendship can be very unique. While we were best friends in fourth grade, our school district built a new elementary school and a new middle school, separating our paths. However, true friendship picks up where you left it. We had much to share about our lives' journeys. Cherish your friendships. Visiting Washington, D.C. Many of you know Washington, D.C. intimately, and all I can offer is my first-timers' reactions. Upon advice of friends, I booked a hotel in the Rosslyn district of Arlington and was able to navigate the metro from the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, DCA, and to the city. On my first touring day, I headed toward Capitol South Station, and as I reached the top of the escalator on a beautiful April day with white clouds gliding across the cobalt sky, I knew I had made a... Let me add one brief correction to what I just read. The Metro Rail system was built between 1969 and 1976. Conclusion. E pluribus unum, out of many one. I have been asked if this visit to the Capitol bolstered my feelings about our country and feelings of patriotism. And I will say that during this election year, I felt it was an important pilgrimage. Our nation is still an experiment in democracy, tested daily. We are not yet 250 years old. I pray that our path remains true to integrity and justice. I believe the words of the preamble to the Constitution state our goals well today as they did when written. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Monuments in Washington, D.C. pay tribute to those who have fought for liberty and justice and to preserve our nation. The museums attest to human intellect, achievement, creativity, and perseverance of a people whose origins are from around the globe. Every part of my experience exceeded my expectations. Mind, body, soul, spirit were uplifted. My parting thoughts are: travel if you can, and if you cannot, visit museums, galleries, architecture virtually, and in one of my old-fashioned favorites books. 2. Cherish and nurture friendships. Call, email, text, or utilize another old favorite, letters and cards. 3. Lessons about art or any skill by a parent or encouraging adult last a lifetime. Thanks for listening to Encouragement Only, and I'd love to hear your travel experiences, reaction, and lessons learned. Have a great week.